Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. And this given year, my friends, is 2020. 2020, a year pregnant with possibility. Who knows what's ahead of us? Not us. We have locked ourselves in a time-locked chamber, and we are recording this. And so we'll have no idea what's going on in 2020, but we can only assume that it is something amazing and wonderful, and you guys are all out there in your flying cars. I'm your host, Greg. Joining me are my two absolute best buddies, but the problem is when you have any number of things besides one, no matter how much you love them, you gotta rank them, right? So I'm gonna decide who is my best friend between these two guys. It's Ryan and Mike. Gentlemen, both speak at the same time, please.
Are you guys committed to the 2020? Is anybody out there still going 2020?
No, I think right around 20 is when it starts to fall apart, right?
2021.
And now I feel like
now it sounds like you're counting a really long hide and seek game before you can run and find the other person.
How long did they make you count? That means
Just
that
count to
your
5,000
friends hate
and
you.
then come find us. They are across county lines.
Just keep counting. Remember, if you stop counting early, then we can't play with you anymore.
One of my earliest memories, me and my neighbor friend, I think I was like 5, we stopped playing whatever Ghostbusters game we were playing and just dropped to our knees and we're like, let's count to a Google. And in my head, but now as the 34-year-old, I don't know so many of the numbers in between a million and a Google, so there's no way 5-year-olds did.
Yeah.
But it took 4 hours.
Wow.
When I was a kid, my grandparents said, it's real hot out right now, and there's a ton of flies everywhere. So for every fly that you kill, we'll give you 1 penny. And Ninja Turtle toys cost $7.35 with tax. So over the course of an hour, I would just scream out every time I hit one. I just counted to 735, guys. I killed that many flies that day. I think they knew that I was just lying the entire.
Yeah,
I just lied to my grandparents,
kicking your knees up and down, laying face to the floor.
Oh,
screaming random numbers.
634. Oh, 635.
Ryan, for your confession, Ryan, you will score 1 point. And yes, much like you were calling out the flies as you killed them, I will be calling out your points as you score them in a system that we all agreed should definitely be called mouth scoring. So yes, we will be mouth scoring the night away as we all agreed that is how it should be called. Well, that is nonsense. But I'll tell you what's not nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. Da 5 Bloods. 2020 movie by Mr. Spike Lee. Now, first off, usually we are talking about far-flung years, but it's, despite what I said about how we are in some weird sort of time capsule, we've actually been living in 2020 so far.
That was
Do
a
you
great
have
bit.
any history with this movie? Did you watch it earlier, or is this the first time you saw it for the show tonight?
Ooh, I watched it the first minute I could.
Hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, Spike Lee movie right in my house. And that it was supposed to be good because Spike Lee has some like eras where he's just like, nah, I'm just going to make shitty movies for like 5 years. We're not in that anymore. So I watched it as fast as I possibly could and loved it, but was very glad to get another opportunity to watch it. You know, I do think that this is like a double watcher.
First time, long time. Of course, by that it means it's the first time I watched it, but I watched it for a long time because it's a pretty long movie. What I love about you're never going to be bored with the Spike Lee movie.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a bad era, it's going to be interestingly bad. And just every time I watch one of his movies, I'm mad at myself that I haven't seen more of his movies because I've really only seen a handful at this point. And I'm interested to dive in with you guys because I think there are great fucking moments into 5 Bloods. And I think there are stupid fucking idiotic moments into 5 Bloods. And I'm still don't know what the sum of the whole is.
I love it. I feel like this is what we say after every Spike Lee movie. Now, keep in mind, Spike Lee is a PopFilter Hall of Famer.
I know. I was thinking this morning, like, man, we haven't gotten to talk about Spike Lee in a long time. And then I remembered that there was a PopFilter Hall of Fame segment where I blacked out while delivering a 16-minute speech about why he should be in the Hall of Fame.
It was
It's
filibuster.
the most eloquent you've ever been.
In fact, you know what? Ryan, take a point for that because, yeah, you went nuts. And, yeah, I mean, we love Black Klansman. Like, it did very well in its year. But, yeah, you're always getting a sort of like a pastiche with Lee. And he's always, like, you're never just comfortable watching the movie. You're always leaving it and you're like, I'm bothered by something. Like, that kind of bugged me on some level. And it's like, he gets you every time.
But you're bothered in like, oh my God, I thought that racism was a problem, but I had no idea it was this big. And then on the other side, you're like, I have a problem because I think movies are supposed to be like this, and he just refuses to make them like that. Like, is Brechtian a okay word to use with his movies?
I think so.
Only
yeah.
if you define it right now for the listeners, not for me.
Ryan.
Just like he can be, and he likes being so cinematic, and like really enveloping you in the movie, whether it's a movie about today and these characters, or like a big genre piece, and then mixing them together, but then also pulling you out of it and saying, motherfucker, you're watching a movie right now. I will literally, going back to Black Klansman, show you footage of Charlottesville and somebody getting hit by a car in the
I'll
movie
show you
that
people
I'm
with
making.
like their guts blown out. Like, and then
This movie starts with a guy's head opening
okay.
up.
You know what? You guys are doing that thing you always do, which you're going to start trying to talk about the movie before I've even put in some sort of like arbitrary break before we talk about the movie. But that break is coming up now, and then we're going to really get into it.
Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp, he's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out.
The Five Bloods is the first movie by Spike Lee. Excuse me, PopFilter Hall of Famer Spike Lee. Respect. Released exclusively on Netflix, but doesn't feel like a small movie, even if it was destined for the small screen. It is an adventure through the heart of Viet Nam, and perhaps, dear listener, through the heart of man himself. The movie moves quickly between fact and fiction, history and histrionics, and pathos and bathos, featuring tone shifts that we have come to expect from life, but not from movies. The film pushes boundaries while being charming, funny, and timeless. One part hangout movie, one part war movie, one part action romp. It asks, what do we take away from war? And perhaps more importantly, what do we leave behind? Gentlemen, I ask you this, does Lee's desire for an action movie get in the way of the more emotional and historical points he's trying to make? Or does he walk the balance between poignant and bombastic?
I think for the most part, it felt like walking the line, but that final scene at the temple felt like he was like, well, I do want to make like a Vietnam War movie scene, and to have the giant shootout that didn't make sense for most of how the characters felt like it got in the way of what the rest of the movie was trying to talk about.
So throughout the movie, there's flashbacks to the Vietnam War. I'm sorry, the American War. And it's crazy just to even say Vietnam. It feels like it's more a war than a country, right? Like when you say Vietnam,
yeah, wow,
it seems like you're talking about a war more than people that exist.
And have for like a super long time.
Yeah, they've been killing it. But we definitely have the screen size shrink, and it's not immediate. Like he slowly does it, lets you know that like this is something else, and then he
granulates the image a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the whole thing is shot in a very different way. It's not, oh, I just happen to film 4 old guys hanging out. I'm just the director, fly on the wall. I'm just going to see what happens. He's directing an action movie. But that all builds to a straight up heist movie at the end where these old guys are like, yeah, it's like those. There's like a Clint Eastwood and space movie that came out in the late 90s, and then a Kevin Kline, Morgan Freeman. I think Morgan Freeman's in all of them. They go to rob a casino at when they're old. It just becomes
a space casino.
A Space Casino.
Oh,
Hang on, this idea's got legs.
That's the two franchises crossover for sure.
And the ratio of the screen does not change. Like, we're supposed to all believe that no, this is the logical end for these characters. That they would pick up guns and do a heist.
Where before, by granulating the screen and changing the ratio, it makes you think that this is how they're remembering it, especially because none of the actors changed. Like, there's not young versions, they're not de-aged. It's just a bunch of the same guys running around with Chadwick.
Well, there's a mix, right? If they're ever shown in an actual picture, then they are awkwardly de-aged. But it's definitely and then a lot of times their face will be in shadow. But I think there are a couple of speeches where the point seems to be that in the memory, the men are not young men. Yeah. They are themselves, and he will be forever young.
Right.
And I think that's like that's sort of how we do memories, right? Is a lot of times when you think back on a thing, like your 6th birthday.
Hell yeah, dude! It's a great point. At first, it felt like these guys don't look young enough, and then it's like, oh wait, hang on, he's doing something.
Yeah,
this movie doesn't have the budget to make Joe Pesci look 24 years old or whatever the Irishman was trying to do.
But so the flashback action stuff made sense because it's these old guys remembering. So they're amplifying the glory and the horror, right?
Yeah.
But for the end, for nothing to change, and they're just doing it, you're just like, well.
See, that's okay. That's ultimately what this question is getting at the heart of, which is there are a rich variety of tones across this movie, right? Including some historical footage that, like, I have never actually seen until this. And honestly, like, I guess maybe would have preferred not to see. Yeah. I don't know if I have that right. Like, this movie, I think, interrogates whether or not you have the right to not look at things that really upset you. Like, do I really have the right to just go send people off to other countries to do massacres and then not even look at the footage of it? But, like, I don't want to watch people get shot in the head. That was really awful. I didn't know that was coming.
That was so much spurt. I did not know.
A lot comes out because your blood's under a lot of pressure, and that guy was so scared. Like, I have seen the picture of him with the gun to his head. I did not realize, like, so okay, that happens or whatever.
You never saw the GIF?
You make me confront that happens, and I've seen it, and I get it, right? And you show me things from the My Lai massacre, and I see it, and I get it, right? But then, can you still yuck it up in some of the other scenes? If you are grounding your movie in that sort of reality, can you have those tones?
Here's why I think he can. I think that if at this point nobody, like, let's say that it was in theaters and you can actually like go and buy a ticket and choose to see this as opposed to Ice Age 5 or whatever. It like he is on this like very small list of names where like what you're doing. You're not a Vietnam War movie fan and you're not a Delroy Lindo fan. You're a Spike Lee fan. And you are buying a ticket for a Spike Lee movie and you're letting him take control of your 2 hours.
And you're showing up no matter what, probably.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that nobody does it harder. No, I don't know if there's a director, like even David Fincher, like doesn't do it as hard as he does, but as well, like he doesn't go over the line or like take advantage. I think that he's still like, you did it, and I appreciate it, and here is Spike Lee.
And well, I think he is who he is, right? Like he's the Popeye of filmmakers. He's gonna make a Spike Lee movie even if he tries not to. But I think through so many of the tonal shifts work for me, especially when it comes to the GIs, because that's how people who've gone through what they've gone through do deal with trauma and horror, is joking around. So that tracks. Why I have a huge bone to pick with that final scene, because if the whole thing is what ghosts, like both figurative and relative, like what are the scars war leaves on you? What that last scene does is like, but it's pretty cool sometimes to be violent, though, isn't it? Like it guts everything else.
See, I see that, Mike. I totally see that, and that's the way I felt the first time I watched it. But then when I watched it the second time, you know what I realized? We don't let movies have the tonal shifts that reality fucking has. Like, we live in a culture that has the movie Rambo First Blood and then all the other Rambo movies. We live in a culture that at the same time says we should have somber reflection of like historical massacres, but then in movies reenacts massacres as like kind of like awesome, like, action-packed events. And so in a way I started wondering, is he just claiming for his own movie the same sort of tonal shifts that exist within reality? Certainly.
100%. And this movie does do the like the arc that the Rambo series does, right? Like,
Yeah.
The first third is, oh wow, this is a fucking serious drama about what it's like to be in war, and then it, shit gets crazy. But it's also like they literally bring up Rambo. And they talk about how, like, when we got back, we just watched movies about Vietnam that were all the white dudes. I feel like this is a time for them to take their shit back, and I don't really see it different than like a high school reunion movie of like let's remember how great it was. Like this is the most important time in our lives, and we're gonna stop being fucked over.
Yeah,
right, and they'll say that at the camera sometimes directly. But I guess what with Black Klansman, it ended very cinematically, like a movie could and should and we're used to ending. And then he brings back the horrors of reality by the burning cross out and the main characters see it, and then the
reality
shit where this just ends movie with the big bombastic kind of convoluted who's betraying who, and then everybody gets their happy montage. And then we do end with 1 year later, like the Martin Luther King. It seemed like he was going for the same thing he did in Black Klansman and just kind of didn't have the same punch in the gut.
Okay, so I totally see that. And when you say ending of Black Klansman, that movie's a little Return of the King-y. Like, what do you mean by ending?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, he outlined both
like
endings, right?
They're high-fiving, they're having fun, then they're partying back at the main guy's house, and then the cross lights on fire.
So, like Hitchcocky and cut to the cross
and
that's
then
like on the
float through the hallway. Yeah,
right.
Because then actually it's the third part, right? The third part then is the Heather Heyer, like the Charlottesville, and that movie has those three different endings. And did you expect that, Mike, to be the case in this movie? Like,
well, it seems like. Yeah, I guess I expected that, but because you get the big action scene and then the happy montage of people like dealing with the fact that things are resolved, even though it feels like a lot is not resolved, and then Martin Luther King speech, and we get the credit that says 1 year later he was shot after the speech. So that punch didn't work as hard as like it felt like. Well, I did this before instead of having the same impact as in Black Klansman.
Also, nowadays I'm wondering. This is crazy, and Ryan, feel free to just like smack my nose if this is too nuts. But I'm starting to wonder if we should count the images that appear when the credits are rolling as part of the artistic expression of the film itself, because then we cut to a lot of high definition, beautiful cuts of Vietnam, which I think are more than just like screensavers, right? We're watching these like sort of like the pristine beauty of Vietnam, untrammeled by man a lot of times. And I feel like that's part of the... Is that part of the end of the movie? It's not, right? It's the credits. Like, that's a gray area, I feel like.
I do think it's part of the movie because it serves the point that he was trying to make. If
it does, right?
If it was just Will Smith rapping about, we're the Five Bloods and we're here to say it, then maybe not. But, like...
War hurt us in a major way.
So much of the movie, like, the Vietnamese people and the Five Bloods, they keep referring it to as the American War as opposed to Vietnam, and it's because we lost that thing about thinking about it as a country. There's a part in this movie in the flashback where instead of having the American soldiers run in and kill the evil villain, it's just like a bunch of soldiers being like, "Oh man, what do you think? What should we get her for her baby shower?"
Yeah,
like, I don't even know.
Lauren.
Like. Like, are you going to go off the registry, or are you just going to go like wild? And then they get fucking blown up, and it's just because Vietnam is not the name of a war; it's a country. It's a fucking country.
Yeah, and this movie doesn't shy away from having that be the backdrop of an action movie, and that's like I feel like Mike. I feel like the way that the sort of like heat that the action movie ending produces in you, and it produced in me as well, is kind of the point. Spike Lee's really good at agitating you, and then when you're agitated, you start pulling at the thread of why you're so agitated. And I think what I realized is, if it bothers you that this movie ends in an action movie, it's because action movies should really fucking bother us. And they don't really, because they're always against the backdrop of a real conflict where real people fucking died. And we can like pretend that doesn't exist, but this movie is not going to pretend that it doesn't exist, and it's still going to be like sometimes an action movie, sometimes a war reflection movie, sometimes a hangout movie, sometimes a parenting movie. It's
like Spike Lee is always going to be a person who's like, I fucking love, like in a Tarantino-esque way, I love genre films and I want to make them.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe I could do a little bit more. And instead of like smoothing out that difference or like just making it so we don't see the case, he says like, you guys enjoy these genre films, and then also here's Spike Lee. And part of it is all the bad guys get shot nonstop at the end.
Yeah.
But the good guys in the end, every time somebody gets shot, it's like, holy fuck, this injury is permanent and I'm going to die. And they deal with every single one. That's not something that we typically get in these Rambos and Rockies in Vietnam.
But in that, I'd say they deal with it pretty actiony, because when Vin gets shot, Otis runs over and he's just like, I went clean through, you're good, and runs away again. So that's very action movie.
He did deal with it, though. The bullet went right through.
Yeah, but that I'd argue that there's action movies who deal with injuries in the same way.
Honestly, I think the only one that really gets done dirty, because most of them get cool heroic ends at least, which in this kind of movie is like the best you can probably do. But the one I think that gets done really dirty is Eddie. Like that whole thing where he's backing up and you know he's going to step on a landmine, and they don't play it for comedy, but it's so comedy adjacent, and with every step
when they're screaming with an air horn what's about to happen.
Yeah,
every goddamn step, the camera, the music, his words, every step. You're like,
and it's like,
please stop walking backwards.
This is one of the Bloods. Like that's not. We don't want to see him go out that way.
It's interesting because it's an ensemble piece, right? But there's a hierarchy of characters the movie cares about.
Yeah.
Which Eddie at least got that moment. Melvin, I didn't feel like there's who arcs and when is interesting and sloppy, I think.
Well, Melvin's moment is the most movie moment where he says, shit, it's 12 minutes into the movie. By the way, I would never jump on a grenade for you guys.
Yeah. Never jump on a hand grenade.
Yeah, seriously, for sure. Ryan.
And then,
but like I never got, like, everybody else, you kind of get where they're coming from right now, and Melvin, and for a while Eddie, until he's like, I'm not rich anymore, is just like, I'm a friend too.
I gotta say, I'm a Melvin guy, so you're gonna get a little pushback on me from this. I'm a big Melvin guy.
Love the character. Love is it Isaiah Whitlock Jr.? Love the actor.
Oh God, Isaiah Whitlock Jr. Oh my gosh, Mark, you got to get a point for that. Just killing it.
But I think the movie,
dude's like 66 years old, by the way.
It's long enough that everybody could have had a pretty good human moment.
And
I guess it's fine if it didn't care to, if it felt like sometimes it would skip some steps to be like, no, we did, instead of really.
Oh, yeah, dude. Okay, Mark, no, I have to admit that 100% is the case.
I totally disagree. I think this is all part of his thesis, is that Eddie, the former rich guy, watching him step back, and then he steps onto a landmine and explodes. And then they're all like, no, my God, we did not think that was going to be part of our adventure. That sucks. And they're all about to, grieve for what they just saw. And then white people come up and more landmines come up. I think that's part of the thesis of, like, we have to keep, like, we don't have time for this shit because the next part of the war is coming.
That for sure.
Right.
But I'm saying character arc-wise, it does a disservice to Eddie. And it's fine if Paul and Otis are your main, and then to a lesser extent Daniel or David are your main focuses, but the movie does for a while try to be like, they're all the same and they're all gonna arc.
See, I don't think that's true. I think that I'm so sorry, rich guy and
Eddie Money,
Eddie and Melvin are very clearly from the beginning going to be secondary. I
think they're set up that way. That's how you set up an ensemble, is some of them have to be the people in the background.
Yes, but again, it was this length of movie. I guess I was not surprised by Paul or Otis's or David's arc. So if you're going to take up this much screen time, inject more humanity into the five Bloods.
Well, we are actually going to get deeper into the characters in a upcoming segment that I like to call 2 segments from now. But when we come back, we are going to go on a shopping spree.
Here we go again.
All right, sweetheart, all right. Daddy will get you a golden goose as soon as we get home.
No, I want one of those.
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket.
Always getting hyped after the shopping spree drop. You know you're ready to go.
It's such a
after
good drop.
that. It really is. It really is. It mixes everything we like here. Macklemore and Frucasol.
Shout out to Banksy for making that for us.
Thank
That's
you
awesome.
so much, Banksy. We really appreciate it. And also, we are taking care of the monolith. Wink. Right? This is between us impresarios. Well, it's time to run through this movie and grab everything our grubby little hands can grab. You know it. You love it. It's shopping spree. Mike, what's the first thing you're going to grab as you supermarket sweep right through this thing?
I learned no lessons from this movie, so I'm grabbing every single one of those gold bars I can.
All right, so Mike is just going to go. You're going for as many as you can grab, you're saying?
No, I'm all of them. I'm just
Okay.
grabbing all of it.
Because honestly,
DQ, you cannot grab all
here's
of them.
the deal.
I can.
Here's the
I could
deal.
Put it in a
They're very
rucksack.
heavy.
Obviously, the point of the movie is don't want gold bars so much. So I personally don't want all of them. But could I get like a tenner? Could I just get 5 to 10 of the gold bars? Like, because then that's not like I'm gonna still have to work, right? But I'm just gonna have a little scratch. Maybe one day I could
Push.
afford a house, which.
We could do gold bar high fives, which I
Oh
love.
my god, the cheersing. They made the cheersing look really inviting.
But Mike, in shopping spree, you grab that entire case of gold bars.
Yes.
And it's Christmas coming up. And you don't know what to get me and Greg
Yeah.
for Christmas.
It's a gold bar, for sure.
Okay.
All right, so 2 or 3 gold
But
bars.
it does mean
Then-
every pop filter vacation from here on out, you guys are coasting.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
take that
That's
deal.
okay. If you give me a gold bar, that's all right. Okay, Ryan. So all the gold bars have been taken, but Mike promised to give us each one, and we were instantly like, "Okay, we're placated." So what are you gonna grab?
But also, though, that makes his first pick lesser than. He just lost a bunch of gold bars because he gave them to us.
Sucker.
I think that I'm nervous about this first pick. But I'm in a mood right now.
Yeah, you are.
as-
Get it off your chest.
Dish it, Big Daddy. What's going on?
2020 fucked me in so many
Oh
ways.
yeah, did you have a
but there was-
hard one?
There's one that Greg, you know what? Fuck you, dude. Everyone in the nation had a terrible year. And 2020 had Lakers and Dodgers
Oh, did it?
victories.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Yes, it
you just
did. I
walk-
guess
you
that's
walk
true,
around-
Ryan. That's double points. Wow, way to go, man. I guess it did.
Fuck
I do
this.
feel better.
So what I'm going to do is take Paul's ability to talk to Chadwick Boseman's ghost whenever
Oh
I
my
want.
god. Oh.
Or whenever he comes to
Wow.
me.
Wait, because you just need somebody to talk to?
And because
And
it's
if
fucking
it's Norman
Chadwick
Norman,
Boseman.
I'll take that too. But god damn it, if I could not need someone in my life right now like that, Jesus Christ.
This was a hard fucked up part of this movie, right? Like having it be all about
That Spike Lee had no intention.
Yeah.
It's part of him, and I'm sure he feels bad about it. When Chadwick died, he went, "Oh well, this movie's going to hit harder than it was going to before."
and it like
Shit, I hate that I thought that, but I thought that.
so this is something exterior to the movie which increases the emotional impact of a couple of scenes to the point where they are like you will cry, right? Like I mean this is
Yeah.
a fucking fucked up movie in that way. Wow, that is it and it but it's a great honor to him, but he really does look unwell in it. Like he looks so bony.
Well, I mean, he has a bullet hole in his
Yeah,
gut.
that too. They should have
Yeah,
edited that
that-
out. That wasn't very classy of them. All right, so I'm going to run through this movie, and what I'm going to grab is no big deal, everybody, but I'm just going to grab some of Melvin's wardrobe, and I want to be specific. His hat game is very strong, but he has a matching shirt and hat that is like blue on blue pinstripes. And I guess what I should probably be asking for is the ability to wear something like that and not just the clothes themselves. But that's definitely what I'm going to go with is his like that particular outfit, matching pinstripe hat. Again, this guy's like 66 years old and he is like such a young, fun dresser.
Yeah. A fun game throughout the movie is like, when we are this age still vacationing together, who is what kind of guy? Who's
Oh,
talking
man.
to way younger girls? Who is angrily screaming at everybody?
They already are in way better shape than us and move a lot more fluidly and for the most part look
Yeah.
younger than we do. So-
But the other thing too is that like when the four of them are hanging out, there are points where Eddie is both jealous and hates Otis and Paul.
Yeah.
And Paul both hates and is jealous of Otis and Eddie. And Melvin the whole time is like, I'm fucking
just
Melvin,
cool.
dude.
I am.
But there's that
man.
scene that follows Otis through the bar before they get to the Quiet We Can Talk place. And man, since Lester Freeman did now, he's just the coolest fucking dude when he walks.
Otis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Like that whole thing with them walking through the club, as dirty as the movie does them, like because they get just like so many of them gets blowed up and stuff. Like them going through that club, floating through, and like especially Otis at the end. One of the women as walks by, she goes like, "Come dance with us," and he just dances by. So
dude.
fucking
Yeah.
cool, dude. That one's gonna go to Mike that round because gold bars. I mean, like, sorry. At the end of the day, gold bars. Oh,
and by the way, Greg, before he handed us those gold bars, he shot us both in the face. Like he's just going to cheat.
classic
to keep more
gold bar
bars.
moves. You think you know what your response to seeing gold bars is in real life, but a lot of people don't realize how quick they're just gonna like headshot their friends.
The minute I saw the gold bars, I took out a life insurance policy on both of you.
Yeah.
That gave you some of my gold bars and then killed you. So now I've quadrupled my gold bar intake.
They have new laws about who you can take a life insurance policy out on, but back in the day, you could just take it out on anybody. And
That's so sketch.
If anybody with a suitcase full of gold bars asks for an insurance policy, I'm just gonna say no,
No
to
way.
whoever
Honestly,
they say.
no.
Yeah.
suitcase full of gold bars does nothing for me. Too heavy. Too heavy. All right, we only have one more round, everybody. So
Oh, shit.
we are going to spin it back around and reverse it, and it's to me again. And I have to say, I don't know if this is a thing that really exists, but they had some sort of wand that could detect metal. If this really existed, I imagine people would own them and always be using them all over the place, like always going to the beach with them in the park and everything. I imagine that these sort of make somebody like a hero. You'll notice, of course, Melvin is the one who wields the metal detector.
And therefore, if he holds it, he does not have to.
He
pick
doesn't
up
have to pick anything up.
Yeah.
Like I'm searching for
I
it.
respect this guy so much, you guys.
Melvin.
So I would, of course, be dressed just like him and also have the metal detector. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about Greg right now.
I cannot wait till Greg's 60th birthday, where he gets his first pair of brown socks, his first pair of Birkenstocks, and his first metal detector. It's going to be a fucking party.
Greg's 60th birthday. You're adorable. All right, Ryan, you're also up now. What do you want to grab? What's going to be your last item from this movie?
Greg, I am taking Spike Lee's Happy Treadmill.
Yes.
Are you finally fulfilled as a character?
Ryan. Yes.
I'm gonna jump on that, and I'm gonna fucking not even walk towards the camera. I'm just gonna take this little monorail of happiness right
The
towards
first
it.
2 times I saw him do this shot, I was like, no, Spike Lee, I reject this shot. You know what? Now I wait for it. It's my favorite part of Klansman, and it's my favorite part of this movie. That's a good shot. He invented it, and he made us accept it, and we do. That's a quality
that-
shot.
This is why
Otis and his daughter.
Yeah,
Otis and his
towards
daughter.
the
This
end,
is
yeah.
why you won't like Spike Lee until your 6th Spike Lee movie. But yeah, it's exactly because of that. Wins that fucking treadmill.
Oh, here it is, dude. Here it is. Honestly, he makes his movies a celebration, and like that, he celebrates every different part of film. All right, Mike, that's the one that's going to win. But do you want to give one too?
Yeah, I'll give. This is a one just for Mikey.
Philly special.
I think Vietnam
It's
is
one for them,
is
one
a
for you.
beautiful country. I'm not going to be a colonizer and try to take the whole country. Don't worry. But something like that.
But
in a lot of
should
places,
I?
but very specific to the outdoor bar they go to where he meets Hetty. Is that the French lady?
Yeah.
But it's a completely outdoor bar. I get hot no matter where I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking awesome. Where there's a water right next to you, so you could like dip your toes in while drinking a cool Sapporo or whatever. Like, I just want that bar. I want an outdoor bar.
I hate to tell
But
you.
this specific kind.
I hate to tell you, Mike, Vietnam is the hottest place on earth. You would much rather be
I know.
inside.
I'm hot wherever I go, so fuck it.
We're a sweaty
Now
bunch.
everybody is as sweaty as I am at this bar.
I have some bar questions with this movie because the first time they're in the bar, it's called Apocalypse Now, which is adorable.
That which
And
might be a
they
nod
walk
to
through-
something else. I'm not. That might be a ref, Ryan, to something
The
else.
King
It's a
Kong
nod-
movie.
It's a nod to It's a Wonderful Life, and they walk through the bar, cool as shit, in slow motion, and then the second bar they're in, is it Melvin? Is it Greg's spirit animal, Melvin? Get so drunk that they.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Again, a very Greg move.
I think the first bar is what we think we're at, like what we're like in a bar, and the second bar is what we're actually like in a bar.
Well, that's all the time we have for shots. Oh, Ryan, of course, wins the round there because love that shot. Always a good shot, and you have to own it. So I have Melvin's attire and his metal wand, and I was so busy paying attention to that, Ryan. I did not pay. You have that shot, and what else do you have?
I have the Spike Lee treadmill and the Chadwick Boseman ghost.
Pretty good. What do you have, Mike?
Really heady stuff. I have all the gold from the movie and that outdoor bar.
All right, and of course, the winner overall of the segment is Greg and his friend Melvin. All right. When we come back, we are going to dig right back into this movie.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com. And it's everything you need that's related to PopFilter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that PopFilter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review, bye!
We are back, and it's time to dive back into this movie. Gentlemen, let me ask you, do you agree that it's impossible to talk about this movie for very long without digging into Delroy Lindo's Paul? And do Lindo and Paul walk away with the movie? And do we think Lee was successful in what he was trying to do with making his lead character a Trumpist?
I will say that it's a crazy quick transition from ensemble to spotlight, right? Like
Right.
the movie really does want you to think that like this is Dazed and Confused, but like
Right.
older, and you know, and then we hone in pretty quick.
It almost, but it comes up like frog boiling water slow enough. Like it feels like the camera can't help but now this is the movie because he just keeps grabbing it. And there, I think a lesser actor, it would be too scenery chewing. But he, I think for the most part, walks that line really, really well that you buy into all of his big bombasticness.
Is it
I'm
too
not
cute
sure-
to say that at first you overlook him and then you realize it's all about him in like maybe classic Trump voter style?
Yeah, to mean like the way that we do to all of our relatives. Yeah, absolutely. Like you roll your eyes like his friends do, you know, like towards when they're all together as a foursome, he's like, nah, you know what? I'll say it. I voted for him. Oh my God, you voted for President.
You were the one.
Yeah, and they all react and they can't believe it. But it feels like they're ready to move on.
Yeah.
You know, like this is not about politics. This is a weekend about, Storm and Norman and
Golden
gold
friends.
and hanging out. And the fact that you voted for Trump, it doesn't say that much about you. Actually,
But wait,
the fact that you did.
You've always been an asshole, and this is very indicative of that. What I do appreciate is I think it'd be easy to make Otis or David the main, and to keep it on him and have him not become a better human. Like he doesn't arc in that way. I think is pretty bold.
he does
Delroy
arc
Lindo
though,
from-
right?
He I don't know if he arcs as opposed to like starts at the top and then just goes off the charts of
Yeah,
like
he's-
he implodes.
We're watching the guy in Apocalypse Now because we've talked about how many movie
Kurtz.
references that Spike Lee. Like we were
Kurtz.
just watching him go through it instead of meeting him when he's already batshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that figure hangs over this entire movie, especially in the figure of Paul. And I think it's I'm going to have to give you a point there, Mike, because when in Heart of Darkness and in the movie Apocalypse Now, that figure is always described as like being super good at everything. And Paul is kind of really good at everything. He's ornery and he's gone a little bit crazy, but he's the best soldier they have left.
Right. When he takes out all of his team and the landmine people, you're not like, that's action movie bullshit. It's like, I believe every single moment of that.
But that's it's not just skill and smarts though. It's like alpha balls. We always drop a knee to the person who is just the loudest and the meanest.
Yeah,
like that's his
right.
number one skill, and his skill set is like, oh, if I just scream and look
Right.
at them and then like say that if you don't go with me, you're betraying me. I'm gonna scream at you until you feel bullied into doing something, and if you look like you might not, I'm gonna like say that you're like a traitor, like you're not patriotic.
But
then you're just gonna go along with me.
What shows how babyish he is that scene when they're in the outdoor floating market and everybody else can deal with the market pretty well, and he freaks out and does not know how to deal with it instantly.
Do you okay?
So, like,
or the bar scene where two old Vietnamese men want to buy them drinks,
Right.
And so they're looking at the table like, oh, I want to buy them drinks, and he thinks that they're about to start Vietnam 2 or the American War 2. Like
Right.
he thinks that they're going to fight them.
That scene's so interesting because it's clear the two old men are like, we was all kids and we weren't in charge. And so much of the movie is about how specifically the black GIs, most American soldiers, but black GIs because of the draft, didn't have to believe in the war they were fighting for. They knew it was bullshit, but it was die or get imprisoned at home or come here and do it.
And they believed in the men that they served with, right?
Right. And because that's all you got at that point. And Paul's so interesting because he often is aware of that, but then falls into it anyway and refuses to believe the war isn't over, even if it was a war he didn't buy into.
Mark.
And he is right, but
do you at all think, Lindo's performance, I think was very good, but do you at all think that he didn't leave himself a ton of room with the way, or the movie doesn't leave him a ton of room with the way he reacts in the bar and then in the water market, that both are so big and you see them coming, but they still are so big and over the top? And specifically the water market thing, he doesn't want the chicken. Back off. This obviously is an agitated person right now. Like, he doesn't want you shoving the chicken in his face. Like, I know he goes way too far and he even says racist stuff, but like, what? I don't know. Like that, then I felt like that didn't give him enough space to later get upset in a more organic way. And then it caused him to have to be so big at the end that sometimes it pushed the performance into maybe dangerous over the top territory.
It's not a descent. You're like, yeah, he's always been like this. Like,
yeah, maybe that, or is that the point? Did I miss the point, and was that it? That he's like raving from the very beginning.
His journey started when he killed Norman.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
Mark.
absolutely, for sure. And then
and ended
MAGA,
at the same time, Greg.
Being MAGA sort of like helped him out with that. Like, now I get to be this person that I'm so scared of being, but like now I have a license to be if I just put on this red hat. And then we also get dips. One of sort of Paul, like, oh, I'm about to be reflective. You know what? Fuck that. That's for fucking hippies and women.
Well,
I think one of the most important scenes is where Otis is like, man, just come to a meeting with me. I'll never do that fucking new way bullshit. Like, he knows that if he did that, not only would he feel weak, or he would look weak, not feel weak, but look weak to everybody who was like him, but then also have to go through the stuff that he refuses to go through.
That's the thing. That's what I think it really is, Ryan. That's what I think it really is he, every time he flips out, it's because when you know what happened at the end of the movie, you know that he's the one that accidentally killed Norm, because you know that when you watch it again, you see every time he freaks out, it's because something is triggering him about thinking about Norm. Like, he knows that he doesn't want to know that he did it, so he won't go to that meeting because he doesn't want to have to, like, if he reflects on his time, if he reflects why he's so upset because he fucking, as a kid, he killed, like, the paragon of every virtue they had, the most important person, like their emblem of everything. They're like local Martin Luther King. They're local,
they called it their
Malcolm X,
and their Martin.
And he fucking killed him. He didn't mean to, but he is the one that did it. Man, you see that in every moment of him being super upset in the movie. You see it when you know that he's done it.
But like, I think that's the thing that like we're doing here with this character, and the fact that like I will never stop giving props to Spike Lee having a MAGA hat wearing person as a lead in a movie.
Yeah,
just to explore that. But like,
is it at all disarming because he's black? Like, is it less offensive to us and more interesting to us because we're like, why is he wearing that hat?
I think there's that, and that he is actually charming and charismatic at times.
God, he is so charismatic.
Well, I mean,
So
it's Delroy goddamn Lindo.
oh my
Right.
God!
You know,
No
like-
matter how awful he's being, he just like he's a good Trumpist because he just drips with the kind of like weird Trumpian charisma that the guy really does have. Where even when he's
like
being
Ben
evil,
Shapiro.
like I mean, one of these weird where you have to ultimately, even if they feel evil, you have to admit that they do have some sort of like charismatic hold.
But his true north, which is fucking super broken and based on like toxic masculinity and all these awful things, is so severe and black and white that if David was Otis's son and David did something against Otis, then Otis would be like, well, let's sit down and talk about why you would do that. That's interesting. You know, I'm hurt, but we should talk about it. Whereas if David does it to his actual father, Paul's like, he's dead to me. He's no longer my son. This is how I live my life. I have to keep my head down and move forward in this like very black and white world, or I will fucking go insane. And then he does.
It will
never
all
look
catch
all-
up with me.
never
Yeah,
thinks that he's
right.
already said that to his son 3 times. Like, doesn't look back, and like that's why I think traitor is his go-to insult, is because he thinks of himself as a traitor because he's the one who killed Norman.
Oh,
Right.
Mark. Oh man, I ultimately at the end you do end up just feeling so bad for him. Here's a guy whose whole life ended, and he was really always ultimately alienated from all his friends who felt like they were all joined together by something that happened, but because he knew the lie of it and he was the cause of it. Oh God, I mean, I think that was a very well wrought like tension in the movie.
He's the first person to say blood's forever. We will
Yeah.
always be bloods. And he's the first person to say, fuck you, blood. Fuck,
Yeah.
you're trying to fucking stab me in the back. I hate you.
Yeah. Oof. Well, when we come back, it is time to go to trivia. It is time for trivia. Gentlemen, you know the rules. I will read the question. Please let me finish. And then say your name to ring in. Whoever Zoom gets me first, I will call on that person, and then you will give an answer. If you do not know the answer, just try to ring in. Come on, we're making a show here. All right. The 5, quote, bloods, quote, that were seen throughout the movie in present-day scenes were named Paul, Melvin, Otis, Eddie, and David. These are also the individual names of the 5 members of what
Ryan.
vocal group?
I think David said
Ryan?
he was named after a temptation.
Yeah, very good, Ryan. It is the Temptations. They were working to save the body of Norm. Who was Norm to the Temptations?
Mike,
Mike. Mike?
manager.
Not manager.
Agent?
Ryan? Not agent, it was producer. Their producer,
Sorry.
Norm.
I don't know what those 3 jobs are, how they're different, but
Well, manager, yeah.
no, we don't need to.
It's not interesting. But he like helped make their songs basically. So like he really contributed a lot to their sound. So he would have been the spirit of them. So it's less crazy than if it we're just someone who like represented them legally or something. Norm Lewis, who plays Eddie, is from Eatonville, Florida, famously depicted in the novel Their Eyes Were Watching God. Who wrote Their Eyes
Ryan.
Were Watching God? Ryan?
Zora.
Zora Neale Hurston. I will
was gonna finish
never
it.
one time miss an opportunity to rep Zora Neale Hurston. Zora, I love you.
Come on,
Their
the
Eyes Were Watching
show.
God is the fucking best book. of
Email
all
us,
time.
please.
All right. Eatonville. Honestly, I feel like the spirit of Eatonville, where he is from and is the center of the book, Their Eyes Were Watching God, is like kind of the spiritual center of the Five Bloods as well. Like just a community that maybe doesn't always see eye to eye about a lot of things, but entertains one another and keeps each other going. I think that honestly,
Greg.
I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of Zora Neale Hurston
Also,
in this movie.
that guy, well, we're in trivia, so I won't just throw out random facts. But like,
Hang on,
at the
Ryan.
next
Yeah,
break,
man. When I'm putting these
I
together,
want
my
to tell you guys something.
When I'm putting these together, I'm always afraid you're going to like give the next question by when you answer. All right, don't do that. What prevented this movie from being screened at Cannes in 2020?
Ryan.
Mike,
Mike?
was Con canceled? Consuled?
Cannes
Canceled.
canceled, right? Remember why?
Because the coronavirus.
Global pandemic. That's right. Very good, Mike. The global pandemic. We don't think about it that much anymore. But there was at one point a global pandemic. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was a major precipitating event in our involvement in Vietnam. What is notable about the Gulf of Tonkin incident?
Mike.
It's
named after a friend of the show, Tompkins.
It's not named after friend of the show, Tompkins. Ryan, any guess?
Ryan, it's not the time where they just fucking pushed a helicopter off the ledge of a aircraft carrier or something. You guys remember that? They just shoved a helicopter right in the ocean.
Yeah, that was...
They did do that. They had to peace out. Now they say it never happened. That there was like a crazy big storm, and they thought that they were being attacked, and they weren't. And there was an earlier thing that was like an attack, but the Gulf of Tonkin, the thing that we are always taught is the reason we went to war in Vietnam. They say now never happened, and Bob McNamara says it never happened. So like that comes from like a major
the higher ups.
We love our wars based on nothing, don't we, folks?
Don't we, folks? And they're usually naval events, and then later we're like, oh yeah, like the Spanish-American War, the ship just fucking blew up on its own.
Boats are just
Whoops.
dangerous. Don't go in a boat.
Our bad. Guys, our bad, I said. Jeez. Man, you take responsibility for it. What series of movies starring Chuck Norris saving prisoners of war is referenced but never named?
Is it Missing
Ryan.
in Action?
It's Missing in Action, Ryan. And I love how the Rambo movies are given the stamp of approval by Paul, and then Otis is like, fucking Chuck Norris, and he's like, hey, I never said anything positive about Chuck Norris. The movie never circles back around to that, but Chuck Norris not getting a shout out in this movie. Madness is a direct reference to what?
Mike.
I'm going to say, I hope the correct answer is the film Apocalypse Now, and not...
Mike, what do you say?
The book Heart of Darkness.
It's not the book Heart of Darkness. It's not the movie, because both of that would be the horror,
shit.
right? But it is very similar to that. It is the bridge over the River Kwai.
I didn't know that at all.
Which is like...
God damn it, I didn't know it.
Which is very same vibes, right? I mean, they spend that whole time building a bridge that they know is gonna get blown up, but they do it anyways. It's kind of the randomness and madness of war. To be named Desroches with an E instead of Desroches with an S in France is extremely rare. How many people were born in France bearing this exact name since 1890?
3.
Mike.
Mike?
7.
390, obviously. It's okay to do a little bit of research for the show, guys. We are trying to put out a product that people watch. Or listen to with their ears, I suppose. How many out of the 9 Marvin Gaye songs from the 1971 album What's Going On are used?
Mike.
5.
Ryan. Mike?
4.
Nope, it's actually 6. 6 out of the 9 songs are used. Nice.
Ryan, yes.
Nice.
Ryan, yes, very nice, of course. Ryan, that joke is still not played out. It's enjoying a long life. Is it weird having so much Marvin Gaye music in a movie that's this much about dads?
Mike.
No.
It's perfect.
No, explain yourself.
It makes too much sense because dads love Marvin Gaye.
Ryan.
Too much.
Dads don't love Marvin Gaye. They kill Marvin Gaye's.
Dads kill Marvin Gaye. I'm going to give you each a point because you're both oh, you don't know Marvin Gaye was famously killed by his dad. So in a movie that's like dealing with dad shit to this degree, including like a dad saying like you're dead to me, and never actually resolving that in person. Like thankfully a letter comes.
Well, he wrote a
later.
letter that meant nothing compared to his actions.
Paul
wrote a
treats
letter.
this
Maybe
entire
we gotta
movie
actually
with David like a pulling petals off a flower. Like I love you. I love you not. I love you. I love you not.
Can I just say using the isolated vocals from What's Going On in like just Marvin Gaye's isolated vocals over when Paul goes off into the boonies on his own. Holy fucking shit, what a great idea. He's going off on his own and they have the isolated vocals, and also it proves that Marvin Gaye is like the greatest performer of all time because you can strip everything else away and just have that, and it like commands the entire scene.
Mike.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Bitch.
Mark. Dads and sons fighting. Is anyone else getting Tekken vibes?
Tekken had a bear.
Ryan. Tekken had a bear, Mike.
Tekken had a big old sword, probably.
Tekken did not have a big old sword. I'm going to give the point to Ryan, but I don't think either of you even had any idea what I meant by my Tekken ideas.
Did your dad used to beat you at Tekken?
Anyone else getting major Star
Ryan.
Wars vibes?
Of
Mike.
course.
Ryan.
When Paul said to David, "I am your father," and then hit him with a lightsaber.
David said,
Hit him with a lightsaber.
So, no, you've known that the whole time, Dave. And he's like, oh, yeah, right.
Not a twist.
Ryan. Anyone else getting major Brother K vibes? Brothers K vibes? Mike.
Yes. K stands for Karamazov.
Karamazov, yeah.
Yeah, totally. When
Yeah, right?
they're all brothers.
God.
I know nothing about Karamazov.
Dads and sons and all that. Brothers Karamazov, there's like, it's like which son killed his dad. Light spoilers there on Brothers K. What is notable about Jasper Paconen's character getting blowed up in this movie?
Mike.
Mike.
He got blowed up in Black Klansman?
Damn,
Oh,
Mike.
shit.
Hell yeah, brother. I'm giving you 2 for that. I don't even fucking care. Mark. That's nice.
No.
If we went deep into the jungles of our local Cleveland National Forest, that's the closest national forest we have to us, Cleveland National Forest, Southern California. It's a Nervine. Who is
Ryan.
the Paul? Who Paul's out?
His name is Michael
Ryan.
Gravano, and that is what he does.
Mike,
What do you say?
just like Paul is the asshole he always is and just gets assholier about it, it's Ryan.
You know what? I can't give anybody any points because I don't even know.
It's
that,
me
that-
and Mike holding hands,
You guys
running away
pointing the
from
finger
Greg
at
as fast as we can.
I'm, of course, David, because my dad really was in Vietnam, and this movie had some David scenes that almost made me cry, and I decided we wouldn't talk about them on the show. That way I would not cry on our podcast. Moving on. Should we let Spike Lee pick another basketball team? Are the Knicks good enough for, again, PopFilter Hall of Famer
Ryan.
Spike Lee?
Yes, but
Ryan.
it has to be the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, my God. Honestly, I think we should, no questions asked, no big deal. We let Spike Lee
Just like
pick
close our
whatever
eyes and
basketball
watch
team
him
he
wander
wants.
over. The thing is that like
It doesn't
he's
matter.
at like 30 years of not winning a playoff series. You have to stick to it. What are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Repping. Oh God. They gotta get their own sort of Steve Cohen situation. They gotta get a new person.
It's crazy
owning
that
this
like
fucking
12
team.
of the greatest basketball players of the last 30 years have a "I screamed at Spike Lee" story from one game.
Yeah.
That's fame, baby.
That's great.
Wait, they all streamed at one
Yeah,
game
they
with
all-
him?
Yep, they all went to one.
That's crazy.
All right, very good. Another hearty round of trivia. When we get back, we're going to have our final question about this wonderful movie. Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad, and perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at Your Pop Filter. Email contacts at Your Pop Filter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies. Taste buds, is it ultimately reductive to think of this movie as centrally about black soldiers and what they are owed versus what has been expected of them? Or does Lee widen the lens and successfully broaden the scope of his message?
The thing that fucked me up watching it this time was Hanoi Hannah,
Uh-huh.
who is a straight up villain, propagandist, like evil North Vietnamese, like crazy radio lady.
And definitely not attractive and charismatic and interesting.
There's nobody would think that.
Definitely doesn't have wonderful curly hair.
But talking to
She's the enemy, Ryan, so we won't even notice.
Yeah, there's no reason to jerk off right now. Talking to the black soldiers and having the black soldiers and me go like,
Oh shit! She's
Right.
those
only
are
spitting
good points.
truth.
Hello there, you know.
Anybody else getting like major Watchmen vibes off of that, right? Like, I mean, that has been a way that enemy nations have constantly propagandized to our troops. Is to say to black troops, like, what are you guys
Remember
doing?
history.
And then it plays back into the Ali quote, right? Like, you guys want me to go over there and kill those people, and they've never done like all the stuff that you guys are like doing all the time?
My current country treats me like absolute garbage. And you
Yeah.
want my current country to tell me to go and kill the people. 33% of Vietnam, the American war soldiers were black. 33%, which is a lot
Right.
more than like what the American population was at the time.
11%
American population
at the time.
Yeah, 11%. Good job, Mark.
We all remember statistics.
Killed in action though for black troops was 14.1%. So that's not a huge jump up, but it is disproportionate, and it's because, as the movie points out, like you have troops that you want to send into the front lines, and you don't make those decisions in a cultural vacuum.
And here's the thing. Like, Spike Lee often has, or maybe not often has, characters like Mookie from Do the Right Thing, or let's say Malcolm X from Malcolm X. But in this movie, it does have Stormin' Norman, who does straight up say shit to the characters and to the audience of here's how we should handle it. And I think one of the reasons why this is such, one of the craziest movies is because the characters fight back so often against it and feel like they're placating Stormin' Norman when they go along with it. Mm-hmm. But it's clear in their faces, and with all the footage that we're seeing of like, fuck you, Stormin' Norman, like, this is bullshit, dude. I want to fight back. He's always preaching this one type of thing of like, just relax and it will work out. But we're watching this movie in 2020 and it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is that his MLK-ness of like the arc of history goes towards justice? And so don't fight now. And I mean, he's right. When they're all picking up their guns after one of Hannah's missives, and he's like, it won't do anything. He's right. They would all just be court-martialed and probably executed for treason, fighting back in the middle of war, versus what if we get home and then, because not knowing, often soldiers gain status in history, not knowing that Vietnam War, it would be way lower than normal.
Yeah.
But honestly,
you're the worst human.
Honestly, no, but see, you have to remember, like, black soldiers knew exactly what to expect coming back from war, because when they came back from World War II and when they came back from Korea, it was always made sure that they knew that they were not coming back to any sort of elevated status as being veterans. Even when this country celebrated veterans for other wars, like, they would seriously, especially in the South, go to the train stations to get ready for when the troops came home. Not to welcome the black troops, but to fucking show them that, like, things had not changed for them.
This fucking country sucks, dude.
But ultimately, though, okay, what is the... not to be reductive, but, like, what are we left with? Because we're not left with the message that Norman was wrong to tell them not to start shooting white soldiers, right? Aren't we kind of left with a sort of like a multinational coalition that bands together, even if it's in a dumb action movie, that includes like white French people who are trying to make up for their family's sins, and white Americans and black Americans of all ages, and isn't that hopeful?
Yeah.
And Vietnamese, yeah.
For every French woman who like sort of wants to do David and will help them get away from landmines, there's a French dude who will fucking shoot all of them in their head for gold bars. Like,
yeah, that's the movie at its fucking stupidest. Is that the banker's
I
like,
disagree.
I was a Bond villain the whole time.
Okay, but here's the deal. Is this America, I think America, especially lately, has really started to get off on pointing the finger also at France in Vietnam? Or is that a legitimate criticism? They colonized Vietnam for like 400 years. They fucked everything up. The Vietnamese make wonderful sandwiches now.
Hell yeah,
but
they do.
They started before France came in and forcibly taught them how to bake. They were ultimately colonized by France in the same way America was. So I can't tell if it's valid criticism or if it's America being like, you too.
I think it's not valid. It's I'm in the mud. Come and be here with me, motherfucker. Because
but that's valid.
But yeah, but America acts like you're worse. But we have never admitted how bad we are for the colonizations we do. So I don't think we should point any fingers until you self-point.
Mart.
I'm not sure it's talking about what France and America did. I think it's talking about what French people and American people think and say. Mm-hmm. So, like, when in the meeting, when Delroy Lindo and Jean Reno are going off at each other, they're both fucking uneducated idiots just talking about like very stupid things. They don't fucking know. I think ultimately, the reason that Otis gets the treadmill at the end, right? And it does seem too happy that he gets the treadmill. It seems too lucky that he's the one that lives and gets to be with his daughter. Is because,
except for the fact that we love Otis and we never want anything bad to happen to him.
We do love Otis. Is that he understands that like it is terrible. God, he's gonna if he fucking beats me, I swear to God.
I don't think a character has ever scored before.
It's just that it was awful and I hated it, and now is awful and I hate it, but I'm going to find some balance to be happy. I'm going to reconnect with my daughter. I'm going to help my friend, Paul. I'm going to recommend some therapy, and, like, we were always taken advantage of. We're going to continue to be taken advantage of, but if we can find some sort of happiness in this life and fight as much as we can against the, the current norms, then I think we can do that, as opposed to...
Not
the past norm.
We love current norms, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, not the current storm norm, the past ones. Then we can do something, as opposed to letting the past or fear of the future completely destroy our brains.
And there's something very interesting in Otis being that one, is that he respects Tien and did back then. Like, there's real affection. Like, and I think he speaks throughout the movie, he speaks more Vietnamese than the rest of the GIs do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think fully
Mark.
he got that part of what Norman was saying, where the other guys are like, we all believed it, but I think he got his, like, we're all people stuck in the shit we're stuck in, but let's respect people.
We're all people, yeah, I think is the ultimate thing. But Otis still falls into it because somebody insults Tien, and he's like, what the fuck did you say? I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, I'm still going to commit violence every once in a while, but for the most part, I'm trying to find this balance.
You know what that means. We have entered the dreaded speed round. Ultimately, how do we feel about Old Man Lindo along with his friends playing their younger men, their younger male counterparts, their young men versions?
I love what that says about memory and the stories we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And how you lionize the past.
Mark.
Don't spend the Irishman money, Like,
Yeah.
it was always so much more distracting to see, like, a 65-year-old Lindo hold a 40-year-old Chadwick Boseman as a 65-year-old Melvin was in the background. I was fine. I was never. Also, Spike. It might be a Spike Lee thing because Spike Lee, you never know what you're gonna get. Like, it's always crazy. But stop making these. There's in the photo where all 5 of them are standing there and they all de-age except for Chadwick Boseman. That's so much worse than any.
It looks so bad.
Yeah.
It looks so bad. With some of them, with Melvin, it looks like it looks like when that woman accidentally erased the painting and then tried to paint like just a face back on it. That's what they had on his face. If you don't have the money to do it, just don't do it. And the way that they approached most of it worked so well anyway, because it just, as Mike said, it rang true. I know that, like, we are here to critique the Five Bloods, but, like, we want to be in this group, right? Like, we wish that we were part of this friend group.
I wish I had friends, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think we're the 6th, 7th, and 8th Bloods.
Yeah,
in our own
wanna
way.
hang
You know
out
what,
with us.
Ryan? Yeah, I think so. One thing I think the movie is really successful at is, like, again, so many tones, and that's exactly what he's going for. But the part of it where it's a hangout movie with them, the way one of them will start singing a song and then they'll all pick it up without even, like,
good skill.
Or the way they start a chant and they all just pick it up and they start going into it, like. The way they do that, like, fist in thing, and then Paul, like, makes sure that he's like, David, get your hand in, and then he says it to Vin, and I just was like, that gave me literal chills that I'm getting again now just talking about, because, like, they made Vin one of the Bloods, and then they let in, really, it feels like they let in the French lady too, and, like, I love that Spike Lee does that in a lot of his movies. I don't know if he's just doing it, like, for tokenism, but in a lot of his movies, it is like a coalition of a bunch of different types of people in the end. Like, the finger gets pointed at a bunch of different people, but also the good guys are usually comprised of a group that is, like, ethnic.
Well, a lot of it, too, is that we'll let you in when we trust you, as opposed to you forcing your way in, because that's...
Yeah.
We're clearly not going to trust you if you do that.
Yeah. People don't like it when you force your way in places. I've learned that, and you know what? I am working on it. I hear you guys. How much did your back hurt watching them carry these gold bars?
So much. And we are a third of their age, and I
honestly, I felt basically like I was as old as these guys. Watching them move around and everything, I was like, they're in the same shape I am.
This is why our shopping spree segment was kind of bullshit, because Mike would maybe co-carry 1 gold bar, and then me and Greg would have to do the rest.
Man, come on, you gotta make David carry all those gold bars. Like, that is not; those are not glamour muscles.
Guy.
And also, like,
Fair share.
Jonathan Majors, like, those are not show muscles.
Yeah.
Look at his shoulders. Look at like how he's like. You can see like the ligature on his shoulders. That dude has like real. Do
you remember
dude strength?
Lovecraft Country, where every episode
I
was
do.
like, "What's up? Shirt off? Okay,
Yes.
here we go."
Well,
Let's
yeah, I
whip
wanted to
this
know
bad boy
what's
off.
David's background. What did he do at Morehouse to make him so ripped and handsome?
Do you guys? Would you guys go to Vegas right now and put money on him being in the PopFilter Hall of Fame? He's about to be King the Conqueror.
Yeah,
we've
I
loved
think he's a couple
everything
years
that he's
away.
done before this.
Yeah.
But the last
Maybe a couple projects.
Yeah, I think he's in.
The last Black Man in San Francisco is like maybe the best movie of 2019. I don't even know if we did a show about it, but
not.
like
We did not.
fucking A. We kind of blew that one, guys. It wasn't very popular, and that was probably why we ended up not doing it. But that movie is so beautiful, and it definitely made him on a future. I think he's a couple projects away, but Kang the Conqueror.
That's how you do it. If you want in the PF Hall of Fame, which is why he chose that role.
You gotta conquer it. Oh, what's that I hear? It sounds like the inviting sounds of award season. Ah, the delicious smells of award season wafting up the nostrils.
Do you guys love
Yes,
getting an
that's-
old award and just smelling it? Oh, that old award smell.
Smell every hand that's ever touched it.
You smell that award polish. Warren Beatty's sweat is still hanging on it. We are going to give awards to this movie. Believe it or not, the 2020 Oscars have not rewarded this movie with any nominations or any awards.
Absurd. Boo.
Oh, man. But Green Book still remains a Best Picture winner.
Wait,
Where
hold on.
is the
Do we-
justice?
Do we think that this movie will get any Oscar, even nominations?
No, I don't think it will.
Not
I think
even
that's an
record?
outrage. I think that's an outrage. But
Do they not like him? Do
they
not
fucking
like
hate.
Spike?
Well, they fucking hate Netflix. They hate
Yeah.
this model where you release a movie and it doesn't matter to us because we're the consumer, but they want to act like it matters. So for our shows, we're just like, if you make good movies, we watch them. We don't care where. But they act like it's like fucking so stinky if you put your movie on a streaming service, even if it's Roma 2018's fucking movie of the year.
We should have a fourth person on the show who just does that with Netflix. Just like, no, I hate it. I hate it
I
all.
hate it. We should have someone on the show who doesn't like the show because we talk a lot about, like on the show, we talk a lot about how we like it. We should have someone that's like, nah, I just don't care for this.
Do you know what you do is bullshit.
Yeah, I don't like that we do this. We're not good at picking movies. We don't say we don't really pick the best movies of the year. All right, well, let's pick the best awards of the movie. And let's start with pound for pound performance. This could be someone who just barely pops up, right? The kid who kept saying American GI. Maybe it's him. Did you believe him more than you believed Paul, even though Paul had so much screen time? Pound for pound. That's what we're talking about right now. Mike, who gives you the best P for your P?
I did believe when he laughed as they all dove when he threw
fun.
firecrackers. I think he was legit laughing at them.
Movie prank of the year?
Yeah. It's
As
always
the-
hilarious to take a soldier with known PTSD and throw loud things at them.
As the son of a Viet Nam vet who served 2 tours, let me tell you, that would work. If you
gonna
really want
get
to
him
freak out a Vietnam
every
vet, just
time.
throw fireworks right at him.
I do have to say, though, like, with Spike Lee, who likes to switch tones up, that was totally shot as a comedy. Like, isn't
Yes.
it funny that
Yeah.
they all dove to the ground, and then there's like a star wipe, and now we just move on with the movie?
Pranks.
I think my pound for pound performance, I think there's one pretty obvious one, and I'm gonna not do that because it often goes unsubtle. But I think, just referenced earlier, everything Jonathan Majors does is perfect.
Yeah.
And he really nails subtlety and big and never gets too big or too distracting. And he's like a perfect like sketch team player. Like he's so good, he folds into where everybody else is.
And has there ever been someone better at wearing a T-shirt?
Literally never in the history of the
Did this guy
history.
go to college for putting on a T-shirt?
Yeah.
Like,
He got his
damn.
degree in Morehouse t-shirts.
Seriously.
Even the dirtier and raggedier guy, I'm like, oh man.
I'm not trying to over-sexualize him, but I do have to say, that guy has the best body of all time. Like, not in a sexual way, but like his shoulders and arms are like unparalleled. Goodness.
He can, as the kids
gracious.
say, get it. But he's also a phenomenal actor. And
Yes.
just so much
His
emotion going
skills.
in without volume having to get big.
His talents. Ryan?
Mike, I admire you, going for somebody who is not the lead. I wish that I could do it someday for this award nomination, but
You're basic.
But I am basic. Spike Lee and Delroy Lindo all turn their lights directly towards this one person, and I think it is a career-making performance. I think it is the performance of the year. I think that it might be, apologies to Denzel, the best performance in a Spike Lee movie of all time. The first time I thought that it was the first time I watched the movie, I thought it was a little FYC.
Big.
Hammy.
And then this time, like, I cannot believe what he is doing at all times. He's always uncomfortable. He had stories from the set that were similar to who's the racist coach from 51 who was screaming at Chadwick Boseman?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Alan Tudyk.
PopFilter Hall of Famer Alan Tudyk. Him, Delroy Lindo had stories from the set of wearing that hat and being Paul, like, made him go through that same shit. But
and meanwhile, he's just some English cat who's minding his own business.
Yeah, I
Like, this dude's not even American.
I think this is an all-timer. I have to go with Delroy Lindo.
Yeah, it's got to be him. I mean, this is such an amazing performance. I guess I remembered that he was English, but kind of forgot and then rediscovered it, and that was because the performance like erased anything he had done before this. When you go to his IMDb page, he's wearing a scarf. Could you imagine
What?
Paul wearing a scarf?
Paul would never wear it.
Paul would never wear a scarf, no matter how cold his neck was, no matter how cold. But Ryan,
Is he English? Are you thinking of Idris Elba?
They're
No,
very
it's not-
different.
Isn't that guy English?
I don't think so.
Delroy Lindo. I'm
Let's
clicking
all
on
stop
his name.
talking. Look at our computers.
He's born in
it is,
Eltham,
you're right, a
London.
Very good.
Elton, London, England. He's born in London, England.
Suck it, Ryan.
I will suck it.
You could look right at it. You could look right at it. Maybe he didn't grow up, but because I thought he was English. Well, he is English, but I mean, did he not grow up in England?
In the mid-'90s, Get Shorty, Clockers, a Spike Lee. Like, I thought that this guy was going to take over the world, and
I feel like when you see just a picture of his face, you can tell that he's English. Like he looks so different. Like his headshots. I know that happens sometimes, but he like does not have any of that Paul energy.
no.
But he became Paul when we needed him. Man, what a crazy performance. I feel like he did maybe start a little bit too big and didn't leave himself places to go, but where he does end up going is screaming at the top of his lungs as he goes into the forest.
I think that's one of the key points is that, like, he says, we're not Bloods anymore. I'm going to go on my own. And then he can't just do it. He walks away, like all of his emotions are being vomited out of his body.
I loved it, and that's why it was the pound for pound performance. All right, well, how about director moment? Feed me that delicious director moment, Ryan.
I mean, if you listen to the shopping spree, I think we already know where I'm going here. It's that goddamn Spike Lee dolly shot. It's What Did You Do? Conquer the movie. I'm gonna guess this is his 7th or 8th time doing this, and it is not cheesy anymore. It's not like It does not take you out of it. It's like, fuck yes, we made it. I wanted to know which characters were going to be in the dolly shot.
Yep.
In Black Klansman, we got Denzel Washington's son and his girlfriend, and they got to move towards like just the future. And I think Denzel was on the Malcolm X one. This shot is what we need, and I love how it's just like this is not how movies end. Spike, please don't do this. He's like, no, fuck you. I'm gonna do this because my characters fucking earned this.
I'm actually in the process of deciding what movies do and don't do. I'm actually authoring that book right now. Mike, what do you say it is?
I mean, it's hard to argue with that one. A similar one that I guess here, I will argue this way. He's done it even longer than he's done that dolly shot, is to have a character turn and just deliver their emotional lines right at the camera like Paul does Through the Jungle. Mm-hmm. So he's walking and talking, looking at it, and he's done this one longer, so it's even more signature moment than the dolly shot.
Mike, I applaud your bravery because that's always a tough position to be in. You don't want to just be like, I also agree with what that guy said, but I probably tipped my hand a little bit earlier. I'm just like, I get so excited for this shot now. Ryan, it's exactly like you described it. Like, you're just waiting to see who's going to like win the award of gets that shot. And then when it happens, you always agree and you're like, yes, you did choose the right people for that shot. Ryan, it's always a great moment. How about cringy? Are we cringy on this one, Mike?
I think there's so much of Paul's character is designed to make you cringe.
Yeah,
so
right,
it's not just like he's wearing a Punisher shirt. That's obvious. But part that felt like even grosser than Paul had showed us is when after Hetty gets David to untie and go to the bathroom, he's like, "Oh, you are really pretty." He gets like gross sexually, and we haven't really seen that from him there, and that made me like, now he is movie villain. I've kidnapped you, so I want you to know that I also own your bodily autonomy, and it skeeved me out.
Pretty good one, Ryan. Can you counter that?
We've dabbled in talking about how Spike Lee doesn't give a fuck if he subtly references a movie or if he's straight up like, this is Apocalypse Now right now. But the one that skeeved me out the most is having Isaiah Whitlock Jr. be able to say the word shit for as long as he possibly could because he got famous on The Wire. That's whose idea was that? Like, for him just to be like she in like his typical way. That I know that he doesn't ever want you to be comfortable, and like you're always supposed to be super engaged in the movie making that he's doing, but also keep thinking about other things that he's saying. That's the wrong part or type of like taking you out of the movie. That long ass shit.
I
that did
couldn't
take me out of the movie when I had to take a long ass shit.
Mark, I could not disagree more. Mark, and I'm gonna give it to Mike. Yeah, the movie sort of loses its way around that point where they capture them, and it's like, you're my prisoner, and then also I'm flirting with you, and also I'm gonna stand right here while you pee, and like she gets weird there. I feel like the movie kind of gets a little creaky in that moment, and dare I say it, listeners, a little cringy. All right, speaking of cringe, what is the most Americanist moment, Ryan?
Okay, so I have basically grown up with Americans my entire life, and
apologies.
It has not been fun. But I think that the worst part is being at a bar with some dude who sees others than him, like people who are other than him, and wants to other them as hard as again. Like, two old men on the other side of the bar want to buy you a drink, and all you see it as is, why are they staring at me? Why are they smiling? I think they want to fight me. Paul's reaction to the two older Vietnamese gentlemen at the bar is just, that is how Americans work. And I'm sorry, but to other people, but that's what it is.
Yeah. This may be complicated a little bit by the fact that they were like in the VC, so they were like actually people that they would have been shooting at and being shot at by. But I do like, he's obviously being awful in that scenario, but I do think
they want to fight him. Like, the fight continues. All he can think is that we continue to fight.
Yeah. And I mean, like, also the VC was like, they were just like simple villagers. Like that scene where they're walking along talking about like if the girls are going to be impressed by the fact they're soldiers or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, these were not like, these were people just defending their homes.
Paul says those could have been the two people who shot Storm and Norman, which again is like, there's so much racism there, but then the guys around the table are still like, who cares, man? Like,
right.
We have to move on at some point.
And see, that's one of those moments where you realize he acts like that because he says that, and then you look at his face, it cuts to him, and when you know what the story, you're like, oh yeah, I mean, this guy knows he did it, and so he like, it's coming out in this moment. Mike, what do you say for most American moment?
To me, there's nothing more American than
apple pie.
80 years ago, you helped France in World War II.
Oh, fuck
Oh,
yes.
my, I'm so fucking sick of hearing old people who weren't even in the war, but still love to bring that up. Like, let's talk about all the things France has done since and how we fight. It's absurd. We gotta, if that's how far you have to go back to one up somebody, you've lost.
Yeah, just I can't hear another American person ever say this. Yeah, you get the point. Because fuck, dude, just don't bring it up. What, you weren't there. You didn't do anything to help. Like, I mean, at least like, he was in the army. At least Vietnam's obviously a quagmire, but okay, now I'm angry. Movie reference there. I thought a couple of different movie references. I don't know if you guys saw some of the ones that I did too. What are some of the favorites, Ryan? What is your one favorite? What do you think should win?
Okay,
don't give me multiple ones. I'll kill you.
After Mike says his, I would like to go off and give all the ones, multiple ones. But I do think there is one movie that this movie is taking after the most, and I think that there's a couple of
Hangover.
evidence is here.
2, the one in Bangkok.
Right, it's Hangover 2. Like,
Yeah.
let's be clear. Let's be movie fans. But when they find the gold, they start dancing in a very specific way. They start dancing like these very specific gold miners, and what they're doing is the Walter Houston, John Houston's father's dance from
The prospector dance?
Yes, the prospector
Yeah.
dance from the Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Hell yeah, dude.
This movie is basically a Vietnam black soldier remake of Treasure of Sierra Madre, and it's all about how, like, nah, we'll go get the gold and we'll be best friends forever, and oh my god, we're not best friends. That's all Sierra Madre. But the dance, there's a different part of the movie that might sell this reference more, but that dance was my favorite part for sure.
The Sierra Madre thing is like the seed of the movie, really. It's like Vietnam vets do Sierra Madre. That's how it was originally conceived of, as with white soldiers. And then the idea was given to Spike Lee because he liked the Sierra Madre movie, and then he made the characters black, and that added a dimension to it. But I think that's interesting. Like, this movie is not just like kind of like that. This movie exists
Straight
as like
up,
a
yeah.
response to that.
About white soldiers, written by the writers of The Rocketeer. They thought that this
Really?
could be their new franchise.
So-
Rocketeer did not work.
Ryan, Rocketeer shout outs always.
How is
Mike,
Rocketeer
what do you say?
not in the Hall of Fame?
What's the biggest roof?
Yeah,
Movie
I didn't
ref-
take it as favorite. I took it as like most unignorable, and
Uh-huh.
apparently I should watch this movie, The Treasure of Sierra Madre. So those ones went over my head. It is impossible to have a helicopter in front of a dying orange sun and not think of Apocalypse Now. To the point, like, it's every other Vietnam movie will do
There
it. King Kong
is
did it.
literally a club called Apocalypse Now, whose logo is the logo for the
Yeah.
movie Apocalypse Now.
And then they did, in case you didn't get it, here's the helicopter in front of it.
And then
then it lets you know that Paul will not arc towards goodness.
Yeah.
He is going to Apocalypse Now out.
And then they play Flight of the Valkyries as they go on the boat up the river into the jungle. Yeah, they wanted to make sure that you didn't miss that. Mike, I'm going to go with that one because the Sierra Madre, that's like, they kind of like, that one's like below the surface. The Apocalypse Now one is the one that he's like, I know you're going to think about this movie, and I'm not going to act like that's not the case. So, Apocalypse Now! Apocalypse Now!
Which, again, I feel like there's so many filmmakers who could make so many movies that would do this, and I would fucking hate. But for some reason, I'm
He's
like,
just-
yeah, dude,
Because,
do it.
you know what I think it is, Ryan? It's because he does it from a place of, like, I fucking love movies. And even though they're not perfect and they're the products of, like, a deeply flawed culture, it's fun, and I'm gonna have fun with it, and it's gonna be cool, and I'm gonna make movies say all the different things they can say.
The other
There's
thing
like
too-
a
yeah.
joy to it.
I think that adding to that, Greg, is that, like, I'm not going to outdo Apocalypse Now. I'm gonna say, what if Apocalypse Now came out in a time where black people had voices as well? You know,
Yeah.
like,
Ryan.
And there's no part of it where you can see him looking over his glasses and go, you get it? Like, there's no, look how smart I am for putting this in. here.
Unless he's doing it because he wants to, like, unless he wants to be like, do you get it? Yeah! And then you're
but
like,
you have that trust for it. At a certain point, you have that trust that, like, I like how you're asking me if I get it. The other one is badges. We don't need no stinking badges.
that's the one I thought you were going to say for sure. I think that's the real winning one is we don't need no stinking badges. Hell yeah, dude. When he says that, like, you get rowdy. You just, like, you get fired up. Like, and
That's for the
again,
boys.
It's the kind of thing where you wonder about the tone of it a little bit, but I don't know. Don't tone police, am I right? When we come back, we will talk about how we think this movie's going to do in our bracket, should it make it, and we're going to see which one of these two fine gentlemen goes from co-best friend to sole and exclusive possessor of the best friend.
Wow. You are so white.
Gentlemen, we have come to the end of our journey here. The boat has docked at the side of the river, and we are deep within the jungle of our podcast. And I am here to tell you what is the score of the madness. And the score of the madness is, Mike, you scored 34 points.
Feels all right?
In your recollection, is it good to have your name read first and your score read first, or is it better to have
It's
it be
normally
second?
better to be second, I believe.
That's true, and that will hold true for this because, Ryan, you scored what I think might be a record 41 points.
Shit.
That's very close. And then in third place, I got 3 points. And then in fourth place among the competitors, but currently with the highest score of any character of all time. Otis came away with 1 point, everybody.
He's the real winner.
Otis scored 1 point.
And I thought for sure Melvin would score the most points out of the four of
You'd
them.
think
Yeah.
Melvin would get a point. I know, but I identify with Melvin, but I respect Otis. I think that's like, you have to understand Greg to really understand. I see myself as Melvin, but I don't think he's the coolest. I would never see myself as the coolest. Clearly, Otis is the coolest. So who is the Otis of this movie? Or rather, is this movie the Otis of 2020 movies? Do you think it has what it takes? Should it make it to the bracket? Could it compete? Could it be movie of the year?
It's so crazy right now. And I do believe that there's only one filmmaker that this could happen with, that we just spent 2 hours on this movie. And I do not know if you guys like it or hate it or love it. It's so messy and amazing and terrible all at the same time. I really hope that it makes the top 8. I don't know if it has what it takes to make, to be the 2020 movie of the year, but I definitely think it belongs in the top 8.
Mike, is this a bracket movie, do you
I think
think?
at this point, if Spike comes out with a movie, we gotta do it. Like,
right?
It's always, even if it's not going to be the best movie of the year, it's going to be one of the most interesting movies we have to talk about, because to talk about why he fucked up, like what didn't work, and then because of how we feel about him and how he makes movies, it's like, but was that on purpose? And then you just spiral out a little about it.
My favorite thing about Spike Lee is I leave one of his movies and I'm like, no, not this time. Not this time, Lee. You didn't do it. No. And then I'm like 2 days later, I'm like, oh no, wait, you're right. No, you're right. You did it good. Good job, man.
Greg famously, as a 6-year-old, walked out of Do the Right Thing, and he was like, "Nah, no good.
Yeah.
I didn't like it."
I was like, I don't like it. I didn't feel it. And then later, I was thinking about Danny Aiello, and I was like, yeah, okay, wait, hang on. And I had a lot of good points made.
Not to elevate podcast, but like I do believe that like this is what he wants, right? Like watch it, go through it, and then hash it out. Like this is his goal.
Oh,
is
yeah.
to, like we have to go through all of this.
You watch some movies, and your total emotional experience is within the beginning and end of the movie. A Spike Lee movie, your emotional experience has barely started by the time you leave the theater. You are going to spend so much time in his headspace trying to figure out why he did the things he did, and he still just has it. Like he knows exactly how to press your buttons and get you a little agitated, and then using that agitation to get you to think about his movie long enough to convince you that he's a genius.
I fucking love it. Like he does a thing, and I'm like, oh, did he make a mistake? That was
Oops,
bad.
That was a
or
whoopsie, right?
Did he want me to think that he was making a mistake, but he didn't?
Is it sleight of hand?
Is it sleight of hand? Is it sleight of hand?
Well, gentlemen, that is our show about the Five Bloods. I hope we have a chance to talk about it again in the bracket, but I'm not sure. But that's all the time we have tonight for this show, because I actually have to go and I'm putting together a website, guys, so I don't have time to actually do this show anymore. Sorry, I've got to be
the fuck, man?
Doing my website, and I don't even understand anything about it, but I think I'm going to do a pretty good job, so
Greg,
I'm just going to do my best.
This isn't something like unimportant, like helicopter mechanic
raising a
child, where you
your
can just
website.
do like that. You should really get with the right people. Like at least get like tools and training to build the proper website. If you have to DIY.
I do have to DIY, Mike, and where could I get the proper tools and training?
I mean, technically, the definition of DIY is you don't look for other things; you just do it yourself.
No, but it's not like I'm going to build this cupboard. Hey,
Ryan, I think actually technically the definition's fuck off. So, Mike, tell me how I can do it myself.
Yeah,
Please do it for me.
Yourself with, especially if you're building on a WordPress.
What if I do it myself, but you watch me?
I think and just.
And you're also doing it yourself.
Oh, that's called mutual doing it yourself, and that is a way to build intimacy. But I think you should go to cybersprout.net, because there they have easy to edit fields, custom templates, drag and drop tools.
Yes.
They give you all the power you need to keep your site current and sexy. And if you fuck up doing it yourself, they are always available to help you clean up that mess.
I'm sorry, Mike. I know we're doing commercials right now, and this is not my job, but not if. When you fuck up.
Yeah,
you're
specifically,
definitely gonna
Greg,
fuck up
fuck
yourself.
I do think it's true. Like, you can't underestimate how helpful it is to be able to have people that you can call and be like, I broke it. I don't know how, but I broke it so good. And they're good, and they will
pretty nice
walk
about
you through it. They are pretty nice about it. They don't get all up in your grill about how you broke everything.
They just like kind.
So Please do check them
That is
out.
CYBE.
We
May
will-
I? Because it's a weird noise. It's a weird word. May I?
It is a weird word.
CYBERSPROUT.net. That's cybersprout.net.
I cannot think of another way to
Cybersprout?
spell Cybersprout. I do not think it's weird. I
Check
think
it
it's just
out.
those letters, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being kind and spelling out the name of our sponsor, you fucking louse.
Cybersprout asked that we spend more time screaming at each other during their reads, which is why we did that. But that's all the time we have to talk about Cybersprout. It's all the time we have to talk about The Five Bloods. We will be back with a fresh episode next week. But hey, listeners, until then, and do me a favor, would you? Keep watching them. Sorry, I forgot